the quintessential underdog story. What you may not realize is that this story is David's test, because all anointed ones are tested. So will David trust God, or will he repeat the failures of Adam and Eve and of Saul and others? Well, here's how the story goes. Chapter 17, verse 1. Now the Philistines, that's one of their enemies, gathered their armies for battle, and they were gathered at Socoh, which belongs to Judah, and encamped between Socoh and Azekah and Ephes-Dammim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered and encamped in the valley of Elah, and drew up in line of battle against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on the mountain on the other side, with the valley in between them. And there came out from the camp of the Philistines a champion named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a helmet of bronze on his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. And he had a bronze armor on his legs, and a javelin of bronze slung between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, like a baseball bat, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron, and his shield-bearer went before him. He stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourselves, and let him come down to me, and if he's able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us." And the Philistines said, "I defy the ranks of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together." When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Two things that I want you to notice about the way that the story is set up, and some of this probably sounds familiar to us. First of all, Goliath is covered head to toe in bronze. The storyteller could have just easily said he came out and he had bronze armor on, which is kind of odd because we actually learned in chapter 14 that the Philistines have iron. The Israelites don't know how to work iron yet, but the Philistines have iron, so why is he wearing bronze? And not only that, if the storyteller could have just said he had bronze armor, why does he have to use the word bronze 4 times? He's trying to draw our attention. He has bronze on his head. He has bronze on his body. He has bronze on his legs. Why? It's because the word bronze in Hebrew is the same as the word for serpent with one more letter at the end. He is covered. He has a serpent helmet. He has like snakeskin armor, and he has serpent stuff on his legs. The storyteller is trying to draw our attention to the fact that this guy is covered head to toe in snakeskin. Because in this story, David isn't just going to battle with a really tall human. The storyteller wants us to see Goliath as David's battle with the serpent. You remember when Adam and Eve were tested. Will they trust God or will they take matters into their own hands? That test took the form of a serpent. And now David faces the same test. Will he trust God or will he repeat their failure? And he does it in the form of a guy who's covered head to tail in bronze. Head to toe, not head to tail. Although maybe that was a Freudian slip. I think the wordplay is lost on us in English, but it's important for seeing the depth of what's going on in this story. This is David's test. Second thing I want you to notice is that Goliath is a giant, and most of us probably already knew that. In my Bible, he is said to be 6 cubits and a span. A cubit, it's not like a really standard unit of measurement, but it's about 18 inches times 6 plus a span. That puts him at about 9'5". In other versions of the story, other manuscripts of the story, he's more like 6'5". He's 4 cubits in a span, which still 6'5" is just unbelievably tall to a people that our skeletal remains tell us that they were on average about 5 feet. So 6'5" is still just enormous. But the idea is Goliath is a giant. And Goliath comes out and challenges Israel to a battle. But not our people versus your people. He wants to go head to head. He wants to have this mano a mano? He wants to have a hand-to-hand fight with one Israelite. Winner takes all. Which makes us wonder, is there anyone in Israel who is worthy of the challenge? Is there anyone in Israel who is head and shoulders taller than everybody else and who has defeated a serpent before? And indeed, there is. Saul. This is obviously Saul's battle. But where is Saul? He's back in his tent, shaking in his boots, as Goliath comes out day after day, because he does not trust that God is going to protect him if he goes into this battle, which is not surprising to us if we've been tracking with Saul's character for the last few weeks. Now, David arrives. David is too young to fight. He's just a boy. He's just a teenager. We're not sure exactly. I think we're not sure how old he is. But he comes out to check on his brothers who are old enough to fight and bring them supplies and so on. And so here's what happens. We're going to skip down to verse 24. All the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were much afraid. And the men of Israel said, "Have you seen this man who's come up? Surely he's come up to defy Israel. And the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches and will give his daughter and make his father's household free in Israel." That is, free of taxes. And David said to the men who stood by him, "What's going to be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" And the people answered him the same way. "So shall it be done to the man who kills him." So it's like David is going around and he keeps hearing the same story. He's just confirming this is the reward that Saul has put forward to anyone who's willing to fight. The winner will be given wealth. They will become a part of the royal family. And they will be tax-free. Not just him and his family, but his father's household. So all of his brothers will benefit from his victory. Well, Saul gets word that there's this, that David, who is his rock star harp player, is asking people about the rewards. And he brings David in to fight in his place. And what David tells him is, boss, I have fought other animals before as a shepherd. I've fought bears and I've fought lions, and I will fight this Philistine as well. Look down in verse 38. Then Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a helmet of bronze on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. And David strapped his sword over his armor, and he tried in vain to go, for he had not tested them. Then David said to Saul, "I can't go with these, for I have not tested them." So David put them off. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in his shepherd's pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. Saul dresses David up in his own armor so that David can fight the way that Saul fights.